Hey everyone, this is Radical Reads, back with another audiobook. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be reading Letter from Gaza by Ghassan Kanafani. I read this one at the end of the 1936 to 1939 revolt. Letter from Gaza is a very important and very beautiful text, and it deserves its own video. If you're enjoying my channel, please like my videos and comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything at all, you can feel free to email me at radicalreads1312@gmail.com. Before we get started, I wanted to tell y'all about a campaign for Palestinians in Gaza being slaughtered and starved by the Zionist occupation. The Samir Project brings in food, cash, and medical aid, as well as water and tents to families in Gaza. They have a PayPal and a Venmo you can donate to, and please specify the donation use in your message, such as food, water, tents, or cash aid. I encourage everyone to consider donating, even if it's just a few dollars, and please share their social media posts documenting their work on Instagram and their Linktree page where you can see their different campaigns, as well as a public spreadsheet documenting the relief efforts. Again, thank you so much for being here, and let's get started. Letter from Gaza by Ghassan Kanafani. Dear Mustafa, I have now received your letter in which you tell me that you've done everything necessary to enable me to stay with you in Sacramento. I've also received news that I've been accepted into the Department of Civil Engineering in the University of California. I must thank you for everything, my friend. But it'll strike you as rather odd when I proclaim this news to you, and make no doubt about it, I feel no hesitation at all. In fact, I am pretty well positive that I have never seen things so clearly as I do now. No, my friend, I have changed my mind. I won't follow you to the land where there is greenery, water, and lovely faces, as you wrote. No, I'll stay here, and I won't ever leave. I am really upset that our lives won't continue to follow the same course, Mustafa, for I can almost hear you reminding me of our vow to go on together, and of the way we used to shout, "We'll get rich!" But there's nothing I can do, my friend. Yes, I still remember the day when I stood in the hall of the Cairo airport, pressing your hand and staring at the frenzied motor. At that moment, everything was rotating in time with the ear-splitting motor, and you stood in front of me, your round face silent. Your face hadn't changed from the way it used to be when we were growing up in the Shajia quarter of Gaza, apart from those slight wrinkles. We grew up together, understanding each other completely, and we promised to go on together till the end, but there's a quarter of an hour left before the plane takes off. Don't look into space like that. Listen, you'll go to Kuwait next year, and you'll save enough from your salary to uproot you from Gaza and transplant you to California. We started off together, and we must carry on. At that moment, I was watching your rapidly moving lips. That was always your manner of speaking, without commas or full stops. But in an obscure way, I felt that you were not completely happy with your flight. You couldn't give 3 good reasons for it. I too suffered from this wrench, but the clearest thought was, why don't we abandon this Gaza and flee? Why don't we? Your situation had begun to improve, however. The Ministry of Education in Kuwait had given you a contract, though it hadn't given me one. In the trough of misery where I existed, you sent me small sums of money. You wanted me to consider them as loans because you feared that I would feel slighted. You knew my family circumstances in and out. You knew that my meager salary in the UNRWA schools was inadequate to support my mother, my brother's widow, and her 4 children. Listen carefully. Write to me every day, every hour, every minute. The plane's just leaving. Farewell. Or rather, till we meet again. Your cold lips brushed my cheek. You turned your face away from me towards the plane, and when you looked at me again, I could see your tears. Later, the Ministry of Education in Kuwait gave me a contract. There's no need to repeat to you how my life there went in detail. I always wrote to you about everything. My life there had a gluey, vivacious quality, as though I were a small oyster, lost in oppressive loneliness, slowly struggling with a future as dark as the beginning of the night, caught in a rotten routine, a spewed-out combat with time. Everything was hot and sticky. There was a slipperiness to my whole life. It was all a hankering for the end of the month. In the middle of the year, that year, the Jews bombarded the central district of Sabha and attacked Gaza, our Gaza, with bombs and flamethrowers. That event might have made some change in my routine, but there was nothing for me to take much notice of. I was going to leave this Gaza behind me and go to California, where I would live for myself, my own self, which had suffered so long. I hated Gaza and its inhabitants. Everything in the amputated town reminded me of failed pictures painted in gray by a sick man. Yes, I would send my mother and my brother's widow and her children a meager sum to help them live, but I would liberate myself from this last tie too. There in green California, far from the reek of defeat which for 7 years had filled my nostrils, the sympathy which bound me to my brother's children, their mother and mine, would never be enough to justify my tragedy in taking this perpendicular dive. It mustn't drag me any further down than it already had. I must flee. You know these feelings, Mustafa, because you've really experienced them. What is this ill-defined tie we had with Gaza which blunted our enthusiasm for flight? Why didn't we analyze the matter in such a way as to give it a clear meaning? Why didn't we leave this defeat with its wounds behind us and move on to a brighter future which would give us deeper consolation? Why? We didn't exactly know. When I went on holiday in June and assembled all my possessions, longing for the sweet departure, the start towards those little things which give life a nice, bright meaning, I found Gaza just as I had known it, closed like the introverted lining of a rusted snail shell thrown up by the waves on the sticky, sandy shore by the slaughterhouse. This Gaza was more cramped than the mind of a sleeper in the throes of a fearful nightmare, with its narrow streets, which had their bulging balconies. This Gaza! But what are the obscure causes that draw a man to his family, his house, his memories, as a spring draws a small flock of mountain goats? I don't know. All I know is that I went to my mother in our house that morning. When I arrived, my late brother's wife met me there and asked me, weeping, if I would do as her wounded daughter Nadia in Gaza hospital wished, and visit her that evening. Do you know Nadia? My brother's beautiful 13-year-old daughter. That evening I bought a pound of apples and set out for the hospital to visit Nadia. I knew that there was something about it that my mother and my sister-in-law were hiding from me, something which their tongues could not utter, something strange which I could not put my finger on. I loved Nadia from habit, the same habit that made me love all that generation which had been so brought up on defeat and displacement that it had come to think that a happy life was a kind of social deviation. What happened at that moment? I don't know. I entered the white room very calm. Ill children have something of saintliness, and how much more so if the child is ill as a result of cruel, painful wounds. Nadia was lying on her bed, her back propped up on a big pillow over which her hair was spread like a thick pelt. There was a profound silence in her wide eyes, and a tear always shining in the depths of her black pupils. Her face was calm and still, but eloquent, as the face of a tortured prophet might be. Nadia was still a child, but she seemed more than a child, much more, and older than a child, much older. Nadia! I've no idea whether I was the one who said it, or whether it was someone else behind me, but she raised her eyes to me, and I felt them dissolve me like a piece of sugar that had fallen into a hot cup of tea. Together with her slight smile, I heard her voice. "Uncle, have you just come from Kuwait?" Her voice broke in her throat, and she raised herself with the help of her hands, stretched out her neck towards me. I patted her back and sat down near her. "Nadia, I've brought you presents from Kuwait, lots of presents. I'll wait till you can leave your bed, completely well and healed, and you'll come to my house, and I'll give them to you. I've brought you the red trousers you wrote and asked me for. Yes, I've brought them." It was a lie, born of the tense situation, but as I uttered it I felt that I was speaking the truth for the first time. Nadia trembled as though she had an electric shock and lowered her head in a terrible silence. I felt her tears wetting the back of my hand. "Say something, Nadia. Don't you want the red trousers?" She lifted her gaze to me and made as if to speak, but then she stopped, gritted her teeth, and I heard her voice again, coming from far away. "Uncle." She stretched out her hand, lifted the white coverlet with her fingers and pointed to her leg, amputated from the top of the thigh. My friend, never shall I forget Nadia's leg, amputated from the top of the thigh, no, nor shall I forget the grief which had molded her face and merged into its traits forever. I went out of the hospital in Gaza that day, my hand clutched in silent derision on the 2 pounds I had brought with me to give Nadia. The blazing sun filled the streets with the color of blood. In Gaza was brand new Mustafa. You and I never saw it like this. The stone piled up at the beginning of the Shajia quarter where we lived had a meaning, and they seemed to have been put there for no other reason but to explain it. This Gaza in which we had lived, and with those good people we had spent 7 years of defeat, was something new. It seemed to me just a beginning. I don't know why I thought it was just a beginning. I imagined that the main street that I walked along on the way back home was only the beginning of a long, long road leading to Safed. Everything in this Gaza throbbed with sadness, which was not confined to weeping. It was a challenge. More than that, it was something like reclamation of the amputated leg. I went out into the streets of Gaza, streets filled with blinding sunlight. They told me that Nadia had lost her leg when she threw herself atop of her little brothers and sisters to protect them from the bombs and flames that had fastened their claws into the house. Nadia could have saved herself. She could have run away, rescued her leg, but she didn't. Why? No, my friend. I won't come to Sacramento, and I have no regrets. No, and nor will I finish what we began together in childhood. This obscure feeling that you had as you left Gaza, this small feeling must grow into a giant within you. It must expand. You must seek it in order to find yourself here among the ugly debris of defeat. I won't come to you. But you, return to us. Come back, to learn from Nadia's leg, amputated from the top of the thigh, what life is, and what existence is worth. Come back, my friend. We are all waiting for you.